Maybe it's back, whatever. I don't know why it would be so weird. But all right, so it's running, so I'm going to start this up. And so what we're going to do today is we're going to add forms. Do you guys need any review of what we've done already or not? One of the things I don't have in here, which I will add, I don't think I have. Let's go down into, I don't think I've added the tests yet. I have it on my Office one, and I've added it elsewhere, but I don't believe I have it here. So I will add the tests in this too. But I'm not sure I want to do it right now. Did the tests make sense to you guys? We were doing pretty meaningless tests. You can do a lot more tests. I've been going, doing some testing in other contexts, and you can test, the unit test basically, test the value to make sure that it's accurate. Most of what we're doing here, what I was doing is just testing to see if the class returned what it was supposed to for a string and etc. Yeah.
Could you just call up someone to test and walk through the logic of what it's doing? Because I know we're loading values into it. It's not actually testing what your database is.
It's not testing the database.
It's testing what you say your database is.
Right. One of the things about the test is that it doesn't test the database. So you have to create a little fake value for it to test. It creates a local instance that kind of models the database to test. It doesn't test the actual database. And there's a reason for that, because that would be a lot of back and forth to the database server. Well, if I will, maybe if we finish this quickly enough, although I want to, and if the internet stays, I can go copy my tests from the, like I could go, I could copy them now and then we can come back to them. So things are going so far so good. I might have to make changes to them is the only thing. I think my names of my classes are different. Let me do that after.
Yeah, I was just looking at the logic.
Yeah, I mean, basically all we're doing, so if you look at this first one where it tests the string output, we're declaring an instance of the tech product, and I think in the other one it's just called product. And we're just assigning a product name. That's of all the things that could go in there, we're just assigning a product name. Then we're asserting, and then if you've ever done tests before, they always do this, they assert a value. So you can assert that it's equal, you can assert that it's not equal, you can assert that it's true, you can assert that it's not true. There are about 15 different assertions that you can make. And we're saying this, if you put our instance of tech product, which is tech product lowercase, to string, right? If you do the string, output it as a string, that it will return this. That it will return the product name, which is Lenovo laptop. And if it does, it passes.
So it's going back to the program to see if it returns.
Yeah, it's looking for the model, right? We've imported our models. They're up at the top. So what it's doing is it's creating an instance of the class with this as a product name. It's running the toString and seeing if it returns the product. We already know it does because you can see it in the admin. So I'm not sure, as I said, that it's all that useful at test. But we're not doing a lot of calculations to test. In our database, there's not a lot of calculation going on. There are some, I haven't posted the tests yet though, but in the reading app, there's a lot of calculations that I do. Like how many books read versus how many started, things like that. And those are math that I could test.
And Steve, the next line is the metadata table.
Right. This is just saying, is it going to return the name of the table that we said it was going to? We said the name, I think it was product in ours. Tech product. And again, that's not all that meaningful, right? And then when we get down to the these, we're just testing. This is the views. We're just testing to make sure that it can find index. And we're basically asserting that 200 means A-OK. I had in the pages a link to the Python page for all these codes. So 200 is literally just okay, everything's fine. Right? If you get something other than 200, then that will throw an error. And you'd have to go look and see what those error codes mean. But there's about 15 or 20 error codes, and 200 is what you get when everything is okay. And then the other one is is it using the right template? Is it going to the index HTML? And again, all of this we kind of know because we see it in the web page, but I wanted to show you testing because testing is a crucial part of programming. Any job that you do, you're probably going to have to create a suite of tests for any code you write, right? And code as you go. If you take the ITC 255, and I think a lot of your names are in there, next quarter we'll also do some testing, but we'll do a little bit more sophisticated testing with some classes. It won't be Django as such, but we'll write some classes and we'll test their methods, make sure they're working right. But I just wanted to get into the idea of testing because, as I said, it's a crucial part of any programming job. Did that help at all? Okay, are we ready for forms? And if I see David, I'll get him back to you. Or if you see David passing behind me, let me know. Anyone else having trouble connecting on the computer at all? The only thing I would also suggest to make sure, do you know the Ethernet cable? Make sure it's in there good. That would be the one thing I would wonder. All right, so we're going to do forms now. And forms are basically allow you to input. And they're going to look a lot like the forms in the admin. Okay, and you can do, all of this stuff can be customized. All of it can be made nicer. But you notice that there's no forms pie. I'm not sure why there's no forms pie, but we need to add a forms pie. And we need to add it to the tech app, not the one in templates. So let's just close templates. I'm just gonna, up at the top in the app, right? So in the app itself, club if you're in Python, but we need to add a forms.py. Just kind of like we had to add the URL py because it was up in this project level, not the thing. So I'm going to right click on this, and I'm going to do new file, and I'm going to do forms.py. Lowercase. It's important that it's lowercase. Okay, and that gives us an empty file, empty Python file. Forms.py. You can kind of see, I mean, the logic of this isn't terrible. It's a bit of a pain because you have to go to so many places to do things, but all of our views are in views, all of our URLs are in URLs, all of our tests are in tests, all of our models are in models. The admin registers all your models for the admin app. Forms, when we add it, is where our forms will be. You know, everything is segregated into its own area. It's a pain because you always have to do things in 3 or 4 different places. But on the other hand, it's fairly clear what those places are. And if something goes wrong, it's fairly clear where to look. Does that make sense? And this is not atypical of other frameworks. If you're doing a JavaScript framework, or if you're doing a Android, or if you're doing iOS, or if you're doing, they tend to break everything up into what seem to be ridiculous little pockets. In Android, they have a separate folder for strings. You know, and then when you, on the form, when you call a string, you call the reference the string folder. You know, everything is separated out into its own place. All right, so we're going to do forms. First thing we need is we need to, from Django, import forms, right? Because we need forms. We're going to base our forms on the models. So I'm also going to do from dot models import, and we'll import these. So we got product. I'm going to import them all, although I don't think I'm going to make forms for all of them. Product type. I'll probably only make one form, maybe two. What else have we got? Review. And is that all of our product type review? Is that all of our models?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. The trouble with it being a week and a half since class is I've totally forgotten what I have too. All right, so those are the two imports that we need. We need import forms, and we need to import products. Now, a form is going to be a class, kind of like the models were classes, not clads, but classes. And I'm going to do like product model. We'll do this first. And what we're going to do is from forms, we're going to import model form. There are different kinds of forms. The nice thing about a model form is it will create the form pretty much for you if it's based on a model. Now you can, and if you look at the Django documentation and stuff, you can make forms out of whatever you want, but these are the easiest forms. These are really dead easy. But again, it only works for your models, right? So you could do forms.form, which means that you would have to control all the fields and everything. But this one will, all we have to do is inside of this, I'm going to do a class meta, just like in the models again. And the first part is model equals product. All right, so we have to tell it what model. And then we have to tell it what fields we want to use. And this can be a list of fields, or the easiest of all is just to say we're going to use them all. You may not want to do that, but I mean, if you can either list the fields out in quotes and saying, so you can use all, and this is underscore, 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 kind of like the INI. And that's our whole form definition. As I said, this is dead easy. The trouble with Python is it does a lot of things by magic. And again, you can get much more sophisticated than this, but this will make a decent form. All right, so I'm going to save this. Any questions? Do you need this bigger? I don't think I'm as big as I used to be in this. So let me do, let's see if I remember where the zoom is. Is it under view? View settings or file settings? I forget where the zoom is. All right, let's look under file, preferences, settings.
If you do Control plus.
That, yeah, that probably will work too. Let me go back to forms. Yeah, that works. Is that big enough?
Yes.
So the next thing we're going to do is a view, but I'll give you just a second on this. The view is actually more complicated. It's a little bit more of a go. It's for the view that I needed to find GitHub and print something. Let me know when you're ready. I know some of you are ready. Some of you are bored. Everybody? Okay. So that's for the model. And really, if you wanted to do other forms, and they were just based on the model, you could just copy and paste this all the way down and just change the name of the model. As long as you're doing all the fields and everything. So I am going to go to views, and I'll make a little comment at the bottom here that this will be a form view. It'll be a little bit different. So it'll still be a function here. Just as an aside, it is possible to do class forms. We're doing them as functions. There is a class version of the forms, but it actually weirdly is more limited than the function view. It only does certain templates, certain pre-prepared templates for these different, views. So a class view, I think these give you a little bit more flexibility. But we need to give it a name, and I'm going to call it new product. And it will take a request just like anything else. So at this point, it doesn't look much different. But the next line is form is going to equal product form. Oh, you know what? In order to see the product form, we need to import it from dot forms import, and we've got product. Did I call it product? I called it product form, right? What did I call it?
Product model.
I should have called it product form. I'm going to change that to product form. It makes more sense to me. I was talking about models when I did it. So I went back to models and I changed it to product form. You could leave it product model. It actually doesn't matter that much, but I'm going to do it as product form. All right. And then we're going to, if
You went back to
so I'm back to views now. First I went to model to forms.
to forms to change.
I changed the name to product form, which I should save. And then I'm going to go back to views. And so,
At the top you imported.
oh yeah, I imported. I haven't finished that, have I? Okay. So I'm importing the form from forms. And then down here, I'll say that the new product request, the form equals product form. You want me to go through that again? Because it's probably confusing when I went through it. So when I got here, I realized when I was doing the import that I called it product model, not product form. I prefer product form as a name. So I went back to models, not to models, to forms, and I changed the name of the class to product form. That's the only difference.
But you left it in mind.
Yeah, model form is a built-in class that we're inheriting. If you don't know Python, this is how you inherit. We're inheriting a class called model form. Model form, if we could go look at it, which we probably could, it's what takes this product and determines how to make a form out of it. All the code to do that is in model form, right? So we're just inheriting it, so we don't have to write it. So once I changed the name here, and again, it's not crucial that you change the name. You could leave it what it was. I just don't like that name for it. I came down here. I finished importing product form. And then down here, I started this. We're starting a new product request. That's just like all the others, right? And then I'm going to do form equals product form. And then I'm going to say if request, right? We've got our request there. Whoa. If request dot method. I'm not sure why it's not giving me IntelliSense, but equals post, and do the post in all caps. It's a constant. So have you guys ever, yeah. What? Yeah, I do want double equals. It's equality as opposed to assignment. So we're saying if the method that the request receives is post, right? There's two things you can do. You can do
Post and get.
post and get, right? And the difference, I think get is what shows it across the top, all the values.
Yeah, I think so. It shows
Yeah,
it in
and
the,
post hides the values a little bit. Still not secure exactly. It hides it. With get, all of the values are in the URL. You see that with like Google, right? When you do a search, when it returns, you have this really insanely long URL because all the search terms are in there and all the sub things are in there. All right, so if the method is equal to post, and then inside of this, if lowercase I, oh, actually, before I do that, this first one, I'm going to say form dot product form request and dot post. Okay, so basically, if the request method is post, we're going to say that that post relates to this form. The nice thing about this, once we write it out, it's a little bit hairy to write out once, but you can copy and paste it for every form and just change the names. Right? So there's another if after this. If form, not from, but form, dot is underscore valid.
Just one underscore.
Yeah. So we're testing if the form is valid, then we're going to say post equals, no, this one is a variable, form dot save commit equal true. So what do you think that's doing?
it's checking to see if it's sanitary and then it sends it through.
Right. So if the form is valid, it's going to commit to the database.
Now, if this means it's properly filled out.
Yeah, so it means there's no errors. So there's several errors that could arise. And if we were being more sophisticated about this, we might want to do some error trapping right here. Some of the errors that can arise are you might put the wrong kind of data in a form text box, right? Say it requires a date, but you put in words. It may not catch it until this point, and that would make it so the form is not valid because the data isn't valid. It isn't assigning properly to the data types underneath. It could be that you leave something empty that is required, right? And then that would also make an invalid form. So there's also, I think there's some code in there so that if you put like a greater than, less than sign, exclamation, there's some things that eliminate things that are potential hacker code. So a lot of your code, you know, like greater than, equal to, a lot of those things won't go in either. Which is good, but can be a pain if you're like trying to post code. You know, like you're trying to post it up to GitHub or something, you'd have to use a different way to do that. But this is basically, we're testing if it's valid. If it is, we're going to write it to the database. And again, in most other languages, when I've done this, when you say you want to commit it, this is going to take 5 or 10 lines where you have to connect to the database, pass it to the right place in the database, and then get a confirmation back, right? So this does all of that for you in its own little magic way. And then the other thing I'm going to, this is actually part, commit is true, and then post.save. And again, the save method is actually, I think, where it's written. I think it sets it to commit, and then it actually saves it. This part is not required, but what I'm going to do is product form. And the effect of this, is that after the form commits and saves, it reloads the form as an empty form. Right, so once it's committed and saved, it comes back to the form as an empty form, which means you could enter a second product, right? Or you could do something like that. It also gives you some sort of visual indication that you succeeded. One of the other things you could do is you could redirect it at this point to thank you or something like that. But I'm just going to an empty form. Okay, so that's all of this if. And then we go to else. And this else goes with the outer if. One of the things that could screw you up here, and why I would suggest copying and pasting it for other forms, is keeping all the indentation correct. So else is with the outer if. And I'm going to say form equals product form. Now, one of the things about all this is doing is it says this: if it fails, if it's not a valid form, it just goes back to the form, right? It just reloads the form again. So what will happen if it's an invalid form is it will reload, but you'll lose everything because it'll be blank fields again. So that's what we're doing else. Now you could do something more, again, if you're thinking of being more sophisticated, that you could do something, if the form isn't valid, you might want to do other things, right? I'm just going to show you the empty form again. But you could do some error trapping or something in there if you wanted. I'm not going to suggest that you do that. I think you'd have to get familiar with Python and familiar with this environment to be comfortable doing that. I would have to. I'm not sure where I would go next. I'd have to do some research. Okay, and then we need to, and this is like all the other methods, return, render, request, and then we need to give a, so it'd be like tech app, and I'm going to call it a new product, HTML. And we are going to pass it as part of the context. It'll be form, in quotes, and then colon, form. So we're passing the word form to the web. And again, I would suggest doing this exactly the same way for each form, except changing the name, because then you can write one HTML little file that will work for every single form that you've got. You can just kind of repeat the same thing. So any questions on this? This is the most complicated part of the whole form thing. The forms.py is really simple. You just say what what model you're using, and that you want all the fields. And that's the simplest you can do. I mean, you can make it more complicated. This is a little bit more complicated because you have to say what form you're using. You have to handle the post, right? And then check for the validity of the form, commit the contents, come back to the form, do something else. It's still not complicated. compared to doing this in C# or something, it's really quite simple, but it's a little more complicated than what we've done before. Questions on that? If this will all be up on GitHub when we're done, if the internet is still there. All right. So where do you go next? You guys should have some idea.
You can make the new product HTML.
We do need to make the new product HTML, and we could do that next. Let's do that next, and we'll come back to the URLs. So under templates, under tech app, so I'm going to add a new file, and I'll call it new product.html. Okay, so here we have new product.html. And most of this is going to be pretty much the same as what we've done before. Curly braces, %, extends, meaning quotes, base.html. And then we want to do block content. Okay, and then we want to do the content. So I'm going to do just a quick H2, just a heading, and we'll say add a product, or just add product maybe. Get rid of the Okay, that's just descriptive. I'm going to start a table, and I'll make a class equals table. Again, the class equals table is not Django proper. It's Bootstrap. Right? It just formats it for you a little bit. So I'm going to do form inside the table. I'm just going to do form, method equals post, class equals post form. I think post form is also Bootstrap. I'm going to add, this is not required, but it's considered to be good security. I'm going to add a CSRF token. It basically, it checks to make sure that the request is actually, to post is actually from the app. And then this is really form dot as table. You can also do form as list. You know, there are other ways you can do form as text. But the form is what we're passing from the view. Right? Remember in the curly braces there, it was form : form. So form is what we're passing from the view. We're just saying to do it as a table. We don't have to write the TD. We don't have to distribute the cells. We don't have to do anything. We just say, we want to see this form as a table. That's literally all we have to do, other than we need a button, which I'll put underneath the table. So I'm going to do button, not button. Type equals submit. And this part is just HTML still. The class, again, is Bootstrap. One of the things about Bootstrap is it has weird class names. And I'm just going to, the text will be save. Okay. And actually the form needs to go underneath that. Is that right? Seems weird that I would start the form inside the table and end it outside. But the form has to be on the outside of the button. The button has to be in the form. And then I'm going to do end block.
So your table and your form overlap themselves.
Yeah, and I'm not sure that should be right. It may be that the form.
Would it be safer to put the form outside the table?
That's what I'm thinking. I'm going to try that. It makes more logic sense.
You're gonna test this right away. You want us to do this?
Well, it won't run right yet. There's two things left to do. Yeah. Is it the view that isn't saved? I'm just saving the view if that's, yeah, that is the view that wasn't saved. So we've done the HTML. I'll give you a second there. Not sure, it just makes more sense that the form would encompass the table rather than be in the table and then outside the table. You're not supposed to do that. You're not supposed to mess up your hierarchies. So we're basically, again, the form has a method post. This is just Bootstrap to make it prettier. Table class equals table again. The class equals table is that. So we just put that in. Inside of that, the token is just for security check. And then form as table tells Python to organize your form as a table. We don't have to do it manually. You could do it manually, right? You could distribute your fields. Oh, you're just looking to see if it's enough. And then we need a button to submit it, and the button's name will be saved in the form. What?
Move table file.
Well, actually, I moved. Actually, you could do one of the two. I actually moved the form, but you could move the table.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it's the same thing, whichever one you want to move. All right. So there's two things we have left to do. Do you have any idea what those are? Yeah, we have to set the URL for it down here, and then we, in the base template, we'll put a menu option for it.
Thank you for that.
So I'm going to go down to URLs, and there's nothing unique about the form URL. It's just path. I called that new product. And then I'm going to do a comma, views, period, new product. And then I'm going to give it a name, equals, and I'll just call it new product. Okay. So it's exactly like all of our other URLs, pretty much. Going to save that. You need a minute?
Yeah.
And again, the name can be whatever you want, right? It's just how you're going to refer to it. It's just a shortcut for it.
And so the assured product and the new product, first one's capitalized.
This is the way I wrote it in Views, right? Weirdly, I have had it where I didn't capitalize this what's in strings here correctly.
I don't think you
I did. I know I did, but
No.
it's like, because I didn't type in new product here. I just did dot and selected it from the list. But if you didn't, you don't.
did. So new product is the HTML. This reference.
Um,
First one.
yeah, well, so this is actually leading you to the view. So this is a path getting to the view. And new product is just a shortcut for the HTML.
Okay, yeah, you did do.
Yeah,
You
the,
did that.
the URLs actually lead you to the view, and then the view leads you to the HTML.
Okay.
So the very last bit, and then with luck, all this will work. Is in the base HTML. I'm just going to do just like the one above it. I'm just going to make a quick link, and what I usually do is I just URL, except this one will be new products. Or new product. Did I say new products or new product? So I'm going to look at my URL real quickly. It's new product. So I need to come back up here and change this to new product. That gets me into trouble a lot when these fail. It's a lot of times one is plural and one is singular. Now all of this stuff is, again, just Bootstrap to make the menu. And I copied and pasted it from Bootstrap's website, I think. Although there's a piece missing, you could refine this. You can make this much nicer. But again, that's just CSS if you wanted to go into it. I've been using Bootstrap because it makes my sites look at least marginally professional, whereas if I do it purely with my own CSS, they just look amateurish. So it should run, except we need to save this. So down here, like always, now you might have to, and I might have to too. Let's see if it'll run the server. Python 3. I might have to start the virtual machine. If this fails, that's why. Yeah. That's the error you get when it's. So I'm going to do CD backslash 2 dots. I'm going to do source. Did I do it as VENV? Bin activate. Yes, okay. So CD, tech review 2. Now I can do Python 3 manage run server. All right, run already. Okay, so I have an unexpected indent somewhere. Views. Yeah. Oh, you know what? It's off by 1 space. Why is it off by 1 space? Oh, you know what is happening here? How did I break that line? Somewhere I had a stray. My cursor was where it wasn't supposed to be. I think it's running now. Yeah. So now I have to go all the way back up. All right. And is Tech App in there? That's the admin. I don't want, although the admin will get me kind of close. Okay, so there's what we have. So we've got our old thing, welcome to the site. You know, the types should still be there. Okay, products, when we look, we have 3 products. So if I do an add product, it failed. Oh, end block. So this is actually good because it gives you some troubleshooting. When you look at this, it says a tag end block. Where would that be? Yeah, it's got to be in the HTML. So if I go back to new product HTML, end block should be 1 word. So I'll save that. I'll go back up here, and usually it's best just to go back and then I kind of review it. And then I'm going to go back to that. There it is. So there's our form. I might go down just a hair so you can see a little bit better the form. Now, again, this is not a design masterpiece, but this is the form that it gives us. Now, if I do, so let's do a product. Did we do Surface Pro already? All right, so product type, I'm going to call it a laptop. It's kind of half laptop, half server. User, I've got Bugs Bunny and Steve. Who should we? Let's do Bugs Bunny. The entry date, it's really best to do this format for this. I'm going to do 2019-02-20, which is today. URL you can fake. I think I let it be empty, but let's put one in anyway. HTTP. This would be at Microsoft, right? And product description. Very expensive little laptop. It's more of a review than a description. Down below, if I can get down there, is the save button. When I click on the save button, now it failed. Product form. So this would be in where? This would be in the view. So what did I do wrong in the view? This is not atypical of my progress either. So we've got product form, product form.
Is there a from instead of form?
Do I have a product from? New product, product form, form is valid, form commit, form product form equals product form. Oh, you know what? I think that has parentheses there. That one doesn't. Equals post, product form. What is it not like?
There it is, under us.
Under else?
That's my fault, sorry. I'm suing the public as well.
Product form has no attribute product form. $25. Form product form. Request post. Form product form. I wonder. Oh. That should be an equal sign. After the post, line 25 here, I did dot, form dot product form. It's form equal product form. Request post. This is in the views, yeah. Pick your key. Your keys. Post equals form. Yeah, maybe. But it actually looks good. I don't know. So let me see. I'll have to save this again. And then we'll try it again. As I said, this is not atypical when I do these, is that I go through and I have to correct a lot of things. So when you guys do it, you shouldn't feel bad. You know, having to go through and fix a lot of little things. Because I almost always have to do the same. All right. So actually, I'm curious. All my data is still there. Save. Empty form. That's a good idea. That's good. So when I go to products, there's a Surface Pro now. And because we were doing the detail on that, if I click on Surface Pro, it'll give me the details for it. And I can add as many products as I want.
I think I missed something.
So let me walk through again. I will post this on the blog or on GitHub too. Again, it laid out all of these fields and gave me the drop-down list, right, without me saying anything whatsoever. All I said is lay out the form as a table.
Yeah.
And it will, whatever product types you have available, it will see, and any users that are registered, it will see.
Would you mind showing your
Yeah.
view code again? I'm missing something.
Yeah, let's go back. All right, so let's go down to the view. This is, it doesn't help that I screwed it up a little bit. So we got new product request, form equals product form, right? You're saying what form you want. If request.method equals post, double equal, form equals product form request.post. This is when I screwed up because I had form dot, but it's actually should be form equal product form. So then we check if the form dot is valid. Post is just we're declaring a variable right there. This does not have to be the word post, and it can be confusing because it's just a lowercase of this. So post equals form dot save, commit equals true. Post dot save, form equals product form, and this last line is just takes it back to the empty form. Otherwise, the form equals product form, which just takes it back to an empty form too if it fails. And then render request, comma, tech app new product.html, form colon form. This is what we pass. We pass the word form to the HTML. So what error are you getting?
I'm not getting error, it's just the save button isn't doing anything.
Let's look at your HTML. Well, it's within the form. Button type equals submit. That actually should work. Why is it not working? Form as to looks good.
Not sure. Yeah. Well, that.
So it gives you the form, but the save button isn't doing anything.
Yeah.
Let's look at your view again, Janice. So you got post equals save, commit equals true, form is valid, form equals post, product form. That actually looks good. URL is good, or you want to get the HTML. That's weird. Let me look at one thing on my view. That looks good.
What?
And it's not throwing any errors at all.
Not throwing any errors.
And the form is not showing up.
Hey, David?
Man, listen.
Nope. It's all good.
What? I need to get that fixed, but
No, it's clickable, it just doesn't do anything.
the table needs to be in. This doesn't have any. You need to close the bracket up.
Oh.
I mean, get rid of this one. So you still can't log in. Let me see if I can get David for that, and then we'll get
Yeah,
going.
just
on
change
that.
anything, but-
I'll be there.
That's how I had it originally. Right. Would you show me your phone?
No, that one won't help. That one won't help. I'm joining. And that's not because it's today.
Yeah, I don't know. I missed you.
Let me kill the video and then I'll come troubleshoot. The video's gonna be hanging there for